So, why am I making a video about the Completionist after so many other people have talked about him? Well, originally I was working on a video for Sea of Stars. Alright, I was doing the video for Sea of Stars because of the Completionist being removed from it. And I wanted to make fun of the Completionist and the drama around it, as I like to do in some of my game reviews. As I was working on that segment for Gerard, I fell down a rabbit hole of, well, you're about to see. A rabbit hole of lies, incompetence, and pity. Gerard Dragon Rider Khalil is a charity scammer. Well, we'll get to that. He is originally a host of a YouTube review show, The Completionist, where he would play a game to 100%, completing every single objective that a game has to offer. He would do this weekly. Through this, he made many friends in the gaming YouTube community, and he wanted to use this influence to inspire people and help as many people as he could, eventually breaking into creating his own video games, starting his own charity, and getting out of YouTube.
Now, I unfortunately couldn't make it that weekend because I was considering stopping YouTube altogether. I had just announced New Game Plus the year prior, I think, if my timeline's correct, and my mental health was very bad. I felt like I didn't deserve to be here doing what I was doing. I was struggling to find myself.
The reason he's in the predicament he's in now is because of his charity work. Creating the Open Hand Foundation, a foundation specifically meant to fight against dementia. Because after the death of his mother in 2013, he wanted to do something finally to help people with dementia. Khalil organized an annual live stream, a charity event, Indieland, under the Open Hand Foundation charity. This charity was founded by his father and many members of his family, and it would showcase a ton of indie games, alongside interviews with the developers and bringing in all of his gaming friends, his YouTube gaming friends, for guest appearances, to bring in more money. All of this was done for the intention of bringing in and raising funds for dementia research. That was until Carl Jobs and Mudahar, some ordinary gamers, decided to look into matters. You see, for the 10 years Open Hand Foundation was earning money for dementia research, it never actually gave anyone that money.
Notified that the money was sitting there the whole time?
I knew it was sitting there at a certain point, and that's what made me proactively go about it. Like, I was made aware in 2021 when the money hadn't moved yet, and that's what made me go, that's not fucking cool. And that's when I got personally involved to move it. And
did anyone
2021 last year, 2022.
Yeah, did anyone tell you that the money was going somewhere before then? Were you being misled?
No. No one told me anything. I assumed that it was all going to a charity, and I assumed incorrectly.
$655,000 was unspent, never going anywhere but into that account. And honestly, there's probably more money, but that's speculation. We have no numbers of that money. And in Khalil's infinite wisdom, he didn't discover this until 2022. But don't worry, guys. The trustworthy saint of YouTube, the holiest of holy, the man who is going to save retro gaming, was going to find someone to donate that money to. Now, if you watch either of these videos, which you probably should, you'd find out that he was constantly talking about donating the money to other places. Which, even to this day, some of these organizations that he was supposedly donating to have never received money from Khalil or the Open Hand Foundation. And in an interview with Carl Jobs and Mudahar, he openly told them he wasn't going to donate the money until they pressed him to.
I mean, as of this week, we've been having conversations about moving it as early as today or tomorrow, just because the pressure I got from you guys, if I'm being quite honest. Not that I was trying to save face, but like, this is a private...
Pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me. And I don't want to go home tonight and tell everyone, hey, there is a gigantic
thing coming to claim my career, and you all have to close down and find somewhere else to do. I know this is shitty me to say this. I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, but this kind of stuff, I mean, I've been following your guys' stuff for years. The stuff with Billy Mitchell, Carl, the stuff that you've done, Muto, with tons of content creators over the years. Like, there's no nuance to this. People are going to see this, and they're going to immediately go, that Gerard guy who's been nice to a bunch of people actually isn't very nice overall. Fuck him. Let's get rid of him. And
But guys, please don't tell everybody I'm an evil person. It'll ruin me. This is a man who's lied for years. And here's some of my proof that he was never the good person he claimed to be.
Is one of the hardest videos I've ever had to make in the history, I think, of my whole life. It's hard for me to announce that Greg Wilmot will no longer be a part of the Completionist or anything that one video gamer related, Super Scope, Beard Bros, etc. A lot of you guys have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns.
I can talk about what, like, I don't want to talk about specifics of what happened between Greg and I, because I've never once, the big thing about Greg and I is that I've always been quiet about it, because anytime I say a word, I'm always the enemy. And so I've learned that if I just say nothing, I can't empower anyone.
Now let's stick to the case at hand for a little bit. If you listen to him, he was always meaning to hold on to the money, saving it up for a big donation so he can get plaques on the wall as he can be told how great of a man the Completionist actually is. How can you do that when you learn that none of the money was donated until 2020 or 2022?
I knew it was sitting there at a certain point, and that's what made me proactively go about it. Like,
Do you know when that point was?
I was made aware in 2021 when the money hadn't moved yet. Okay. And that's what made me go, that's not fucking cool. And that's when I got personally involved to move it. And
did anyone...
2021, last year, 2022.
Yeah, did anyone tell you that the money was going somewhere before then? Were you being misled?
No. No one told me anything. I assumed that it was all going to a charity, and I assumed incorrectly.
And this guy's sitting here, like, I don't even know anything about this. And my immediate thing is what he's like, well, I didn't know the money wasn't being donated, but I did know this and this and this and this. I know about the expenses. I know what my company's paying for. I know what we're claiming. I know what's going off here. Like, dude, you have a ton of knowledge. You're spitting it out, and then you're conveniently don't know the only thing that would be criminal. No one believes that.
Or, I don't know, just watch the Carl Jobs video and see all the shit he lied about.
Research and treatment for organizations all over the world. We're soon going to be partnering up with the Alzheimer's Association. Currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners going into all of this.
He said in 2020 that he was currently one of the main funding support partners of the University of San Francisco. This lie is so batshit insane, it's impressive. And keep in mind, the Open Hand Foundation has never given a single dollar to the University of San Francisco.
We just, every year, we try and raise as much money as possible, and then we go work with, Alzheimer's Association of America, University of San Francisco, Association for FTD, which is what my mom had, FTD. So we've, worked with...
That's just a little bit of that. There's a half hour of this shit. But for some of you, you probably think, look, he probably is only lying about the charity event. How about his own history? In some of the documentaries I was watching, he worked with Jon Tron, and Jon Tron was the originator, the guy who helped him create the idea of the Completionist.
And I found a lot of solace in coming back home and spending time with my friends. I started growing a really good close relationship with people like Michael Barrity, aka Belated Media on YouTube, Zan Alda, aka ZanMed72 on YouTube, my buddy Alan Barstow, John Jafari, aka JonTron. We didn't really have anything to do on the weekends. So that's when I met with Jon Tron, and he was pivotal in kind of shaping what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a review show at first. I wanted to do a fun show that was man versus game. That was kind of was the intent.
Him and some of his other friends, the same high school or rival high schools, and hung out all the time. But after, Jon Tron's incident, he decided the Completionist was his idea, and Jon Tron was never his friend. He never knew him.
Weirdly, I was one of the first people that Gerard talked to about the Completionist. We got burgers, and he told me about his idea. Did anything related to YouTube? So I don't know why he went to me specifically. Maybe I should ask him.
I remember getting a call from Gerard, over 10 years ago, where he's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this show, thinking of like calling myself the Completionist, where I complete games and I talk about it. And
I was just as surprised as you probably are to find out that JonTron was such a big part in making the Completionist channel. And honestly, every video I clicked on that he's made for the last 3 to 4 years was talking about how he doesn't make any money. He was going to retire because YouTube was not making him any money. And he got 20 kids to feed. What is he going to do? He just wants to go make video games. Yeah, this coming from the guy who wanted to be a Hollywood director, but failed.
This seed for me to want to create and talk about games. At the time, I was a failed actor who had been receiving a lot of criticism from my acting coaches and teachers and classes that I was taking. And so my confidence was at an all-time low.
Now this is all circumstantial here in my thoughts and beliefs, but it seems like he was using the Open Hand Foundation in Indieland to get in with all of these indie developers. So he could make the connections to get out of YouTube and have them help him make these games. Why? Because there's no money in YouTube. But why would I keep bringing up his money? Well, he does it all the time.
A lot of people on YouTube don't talk about their finances. They don't talk about the money because everyone's afraid of, oh, if I say my secrets and you say your secrets, we can't make the money. And wait, you got paid more than me? That sucks. Oh, you got paid more than me? That sucks.
That's probably because he might be lying about this. Now, a lot of this section is going to be circumstantial, but I'm going to back it up with as much proof as I can. Now, let me preface this. I am not a mathematician, I am not a genius marketer, and I am probably a little autistic. I'm not 100% sure yet. But let's talk about how much money he is making. Let's start with the guaranteed money, the Patreon. As of right now, he has 291 members. His Patreon is $5 per member, meaning he makes $1,455. But there's also another group, the group that spends $75. So he could be making a maximum of 20 grand a month just off of Patreon. Now that's way lower than that, but these are just some of the numbers we'll start working with. But that's just for this month. How much was he making his peak in Patreon? At its peak, he had 624 members. $5 a pop? That makes it 3 grand. That means the maximum amount is $46,000. Now, chances are the people that are spending $75 are probably 50 to 100 people. But that's the minimum and maximum amount he could make off of Patreon. Not much. Not much at all. But what about AdSense? But how could you guess that, Broken Controller? Not many people are openly talking about the money they make off of AdSense, are they? Well,
we'll begin with the year 2023 so far. I've made a whopping $17,401 in AdSense. Massive, massive amounts of money.
Let's check his monthly viewership. This is a lot more accurate than subscribers or just looking at random videos. Because let's remember, the Completionist makes evergreen content. Content that you could watch for the next 10 years with no problems. They'll still be accurate and up to date. Which means people are going back to shit he made 10 years ago and rewatching it. So even if, like, let's just say his new video gets 100,000 views, I'll hate watching him. It doesn't matter in comparison to a lot of his older videos. So to get a good idea of how many viewers he was getting monthly, I went to the beginning of the year, January, checked out his 2 biggest channels, and grabbed their monthly view counts. The Completionist itself was getting almost 3 million views per month, and the Epic Beard Bros were getting almost 600,000 views a month. Now, I've seen 2 YouTube content creators post their earnings of a single year. Now, let's judge these numbers. First off, the lead attorneys.
The number that you guys have all been waiting for. Here we are. How much did I make with 100,000 subscribers? Drum roll, please. $51,471.92. That's right, guys. $51,471.92.
So let's just guesstimate a little bit and just say the Completionist was making maybe $60,000 a month. But if we look at somebody like Spencer's, we can see that he was probably making $20,000 every 2 months. So he could have honestly been making everything from $600,000 a year to $120,000 a year. Doesn't sound like much to me. But let's not forget, he also has a Twitch. Sadly, no matter how much I looked for it, he wouldn't have any information for his sub numbers on his streams. So it was really difficult to judge how much he was making monthly off of his Twitch. But the manipulative Completionist cannot stop us from looking back at the Twitch leaks that happened in October of 2021. This says that he made $177,000 over his whole career on Twitch. That's right, if this Wikipedia is to be believed, over the course of 10 years he made $177,000. So, rounding up wise, he probably made $20K a year. But that's not taking into account direct donations. See, PayPal was not a part of Twitch's donations. It's only bits and subscribers. So any money donated to him directly through PayPal would not be a part of that leak. So it's probably higher than that $20,000. But there's so much more that's left out that he could have been making. I mean, just memberships on YouTube could have made him a lot of money. Just thinking about the super chat money could have been insanely huge. Or, how about sponsorships? Now, unless he leaks his emails himself, we will never, ever understand what that number could actually be. But what if we can kind of take a wild guess at it? Remember, all of this is circumstantial. This is just rough numbers that I've seen plenty of YouTubers kind of talk about, but very few have actually given me numbers to work with. So why don't we look at that Spencer video one more time?
Here's the P&L for my media company, $17,400 in AdSense. Sponsors have brought in $31,490. You can see why creators love sponsorships, because they're the lifeblood for a lot of creators. It's how we get paid in a lot of ways.
Seeing shit like this, I just can't understand how the Completionist could just not make fucking money off this fucking YouTube channel. I just can't understand it. Because he's come out and said he's made a single cent for every hour he's worked. But how could that possibly be the case? Unless I'm completely stupid, which is a possibility, or he's lying about it as per fucking usual.
If I play a game that takes me over 300 hours to complete, just 300 hours, no big deal, it would probably mean that for me personally, I probably made about 3.5 cents for every hour I put into the game. Not even the editing process or the writing process or anything else. Just playing the game. It'd be roughly 3.5 cents.
But let's hypothetically say that the Completionist might be incompetent. Some would say stupid.
Just breaking it down, the Completionist is a dumbass idea. We f***ed ourselves over out the gate with a game of like, oh, every week we're just going to complete a game every week.
So if hypothetically we say he is a absolute moron who doesn't know how to run a business, which there's a lot of proof of that, where would all the money have gone? Because maybe he is broke and struggling for cash, which maybe that's why he was probably going to liquidate the company and take all that money. Hypothetically.
When he says, I wanted to get out of content creation, that means he has some other means of income. I took that as he's going to dissolve Open Hand and keep that money, and that was his plan all along. That's all I can get from that. He says here in a second that the only reason he's donating it because of pressure from Mutahar and Carl. He said that's the only reason they're considering donating it.
Let's just start with the fact that he has 20 people working for him with what seem like, to me, way too many. I do these videos by myself. Almost all of you have watched YouTubers who have 1 or 2 editors. That's it. Maybe a thumbnail guy. Not the Completionist. They're all in-house. He has effects guys. And even his friends still use the same shit that they used 10 years ago. But not Gerard. Nah, he can't do that. He needs to make new effects every 3 months and has to hire the guy full-time for it. He has so many editors I can't count. He has a guy who's just there to make everything organized. And he has his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure anymore, doing all of his art. Almost every YouTuber I've ever seen make a gag joke about paying the Fiverr guy once for your artwork or your anything. Honestly, anything. Let's be real. Anything. You could pay a Fiverr guy one time. I paid a Fiverr guy one time $50 to make my logo. And he's paying a guy to sit there full fucking time to do the same shit. I just... where's the money, Gerard? I'm pissing it away. He's the fucking Tony Kahn of fucking making videos on YouTube. I'm just throwing money at it and hoping it gets better and then cries. You don't understand how many videos I had to watch of this man crying about how much money he doesn't make off of this channel. And almost anybody else is a multimillionaire off of way less. The only thing I got out of this is he must have been desperately trying to be the Hollywood director that he always wanted to be. But let's not forget, almost all the people that aren't his friends seem to call him an idiot. Look at the Carl Jobs situation. Or one of his friends and early collaborators, Greg. Greg, a man who worked with him early on and just was like, I can see how much of a scumbag piece of trash you are. You're going to remove me from your channel, deleting 120 videos off of his channel. This would kill anyone's YouTube channel but Gerard's. But he did this and was probably forced to by Greg because he probably doesn't have any contractual obligation to. For at least all I know. He could have been sued. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. But Greg wanted himself removed and he lost 120 videos and had to re-edit all of them to get rid of Greg, somebody that the community liked. I know, that's not enough. Let's talk about Persona 5 then, where, funnily enough, the Persona 5 video only happened because you, the fans, donated $100,000 to him to do a video on it.
Before we start, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who supported me during Indieland, our charity event. Persona 5 was the #1 chosen game for me to complete for that event in honor of raising $100,000 for charity, for research, for dementia patients.
To the charity that sat in a bank account for 3 years after this point, and he just didn't want to fucking do it. He just didn't want to play a game that you paid $100,000 for him to play. How many of you in the comments right now have sat there and played a video game for a lot less than that?
However, in my research, I found that if a true completionist's run is that I have to beat the game no less than 10 times. Because every time you pick a significant other to be with, you are given a romantic item that carries into the next playthrough. So in order to prove that I've done that, I have to beat the game 10 times, including the ending in which I chose to be with everyone and they all came to beat me up on the last day of the game. I guess the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I don't want to do it anymore. I do not want to play this game anymore. I love Persona 5 with all my heart. It's so much fun, and I can't wait to talk about it. I just have spent 475 hours, and I'm on playthrough number 4. Like, I'm spending a lot of time playing this game. I guess I just want to know what you guys think.
They gave him $100,000 and he refused to play Persona 5 because it took too long, which every fucking stat I see online suggests it doesn't take over 500 hours to beat this game, to complete it, doing everything. It only takes 143 hours. Let me quote that. 143 hours. It took this man 500 hours. I just... And in the video, to be fair, he says, that's not just the way you do it the true completionist way. But even then, I can't understand it. Because how would it take that long? I do videos on this channel. And I'm not a good content creator yet. I'm trying to get better. But I was currently working on a video for Dragon's Dogma. And when I realized I wanted to use all the classes throughout my playthrough, I looked up a fucking guide on how to do it. And I did that. And I didn't spend 100 hours playing fucking Dragon's Dogma. I just looked up a guide, got rings that were supposed to increase your job applications, and I did that. But not Gerard. He can't even skip dialogue, apparently, because it took him 500 hours to complete a game that he got paid 100 grand for. Speaking of which, in that Persona 5 video, a video that anybody could have guessed was going to do bangbusters, he didn't put a sponsorship on it. Now, a lot of people probably are like, but I wouldn't want sponsors on that video. But if you're someone who's repeatedly talked about the struggle of making money, why the fuck wouldn't you put sponsors on it? This is a video that got 1.5 million views over its entire existence on the internet. And he did not put a sponsor on it. I can't understand how he's this incompetent while always complaining that there's no money in YouTube. But let's be fucking real. This is a guy who spent $20,000 buying everything off of the eShop to donate the video games to the Game Preservation Fund, which they told him, we don't need that shit. We don't need a gaming preservation fund. We don't need to preserve these games. They've already been preserved. He spent $20,000 buying everything for no reason. And he could have called anybody and asked them beforehand. This guy is an absolute moron and is constantly throwing away the money that he is making. This is why I allegedly think he was trying to liquidate the company and take that $500,000 for himself. Because he doesn't know what he's fucking doing. That's right. This whole video has been me aggravatingly going through his content because I just wanted to do a video on Sea of Stars and just put a couple gags about this asshole in the video. But the pity party is unfucking-believable with this guy. Every single video he's ever done. Maybe I'm just lucky and I click on every video that was perfect for listening to this man cry about how there's nothing in his life worth meaning anything. His mental health, his wife, or whatever. Everybody, he's got 20 kids to feed. All of this. Every fucking video I clicked on was about how hard making YouTube videos is. Which it can be, but not as hard as he's making it claim. Nowhere near. Every video crying about how there's no money. Threatening. Telling everybody I'm going to leave. There's no money here, and I'm going to leave. Guys, for the last 5 years, I've been getting ready to get out of here. And here's just some of that I'm going to torture you with.
It feels like I'm losing what I have built. And I see the numbers. YouTube backend tells me almost everything I need to know about my content. What are your plans for 2020? What are your big YouTube goals and plans for 2020? And I looked them dead in the eyes and told them these simple words. My goal in 2020 is to survive. To survive. That's it. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And innovate and continue to thrive the way that I have been all this time.
Pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me. And I don't want to go home tonight and tell everyone, hey, there is a gigantic thing coming to claim my career, and you all have to close down and find somewhere else to do. I know this is shitty me to say this. I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, but this kind of stuff, I mean, I've been following your guys' stuff for years. The stuff with Billy Mitchell, Carl, the stuff that you've done, Muto, with tons of content creators over the years. Like, there's no nuance to this. People are going to see this, and they're going to immediately go, that Gerard guy who's been nice to a bunch of people actually isn't very nice overall. Fuck him. Let's get rid of him. And
now, I unfortunately couldn't make it that weekend because I was considering stopping YouTube altogether. I had just announced New Game Plus the year prior, I think, if my timeline's correct, and my mental health was very bad. I felt like I didn't deserve to be here doing what I was doing. I was struggling to find myself, to find my passion.
And remember all those old friends that got into drama, he says. Well, here's some of them. He's willing to throw them under the bus. He was willing to throw all of them under the bus the instant anything happened. Pro Jared, JonTron, G4, his own father.
The Khalil family, notably Charles Khalil, has been involved in notable legal and business affairs, primarily in the Los Angeles area and California. Charles owns at least 2 gas stations and convenience stores located in affluent neighborhoods of Beverly Hills and Santa Monica, which have garnered media attention due to their high gas prices. The land these stores are situated on is also highly valuable, estimated in the millions. Around 2013, while operating under a Circle K franchise agreement, Charles attempted to sell these properties and the land for approximately $18 million. The Khalil's family wealth is structured in a trust named after Charles and his late wife Karen. Interestingly, the family has established a charity but has not actively used its funds for any donations, raising questions about their philanthropic intentions.
Now, I'm not a Puritan here, but let's just say hypothetically, all of your friends are drug addicts or gang members, mafia people, who knows? You're friends with just Japanese Yakuza every day. That's all you hang out with. Look at his friends. Look at his friend circle. A guy who gets nudes from his fans. That's the part that he agreed to, by the way. Not the fact that he's alleged pedophile. Nah, that's the shit he slightly proved wrong. Nah, it was the fact that he accepts nudes from his fans. So all of you out there, you can go see Pro Jared's dick somewhere, and you can send your titty pics to him, because that's more important than anything else. JonTron, is kind of racist, especially at that time, but this is the guy who helped make his channel. This is the guy he hung out with for like 10 years. 10 years he hangs out with this guy. Oh my God, I've just learned that he's a racist. I can't believe it. And he's the one sitting there during the infamous Frosk rant. He joined this company. He talked to them. And he was obsessed with trying to join them.
One of the things I used to watch all the time was this TV channel / network called G4. And just watching Sessler, Munn, Webb, Pereira just doing their thing really planted this seed for me to want to create and talk about games. During the pandemic, G4 announced that they were coming back in a full-fledged style that got everyone excited, everyone talking, and no one really knows this, but I auditioned 7 times over the course of 9 months for G4.
This is his future. This guy's fucking ridiculous. And let's not forget all the stories about his dad.
I booked all these shows with you. I'm almost at the beginning of my new career as an actor, and you're kicking me out because I can't make one fucking date. My sister is getting married. And they said, go talk to her, not our problem. So my first instinct, and the only time I've ever done this, was I'm gonna go talk to my dad. Because in my mind, my dad's like, oh, you got fucked. And you know what? This was his reaction. Looks like you should have been an engineer. Oh, oh, he's like fucking like Tevye from Fiddle on the Roof, like, I told you, you should have been a lawyer.
And so I always get him the best cards because it's his favorite. And so I wrote Chuck on the card. I gave it to him. My dad sees the word Chuck. He doesn't even get mad. He tears the card into shreds.
Wow.
Puts it in the trash and goes, I did not work my entire life for you to call me Chuck. My name is Charles and I am your father. Never do that ever again.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, note taken. Never ever try and have an endearing joke with your father.
Hell yeah, no problem. That's $10,000 of therapy right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point, you just gotta have to think, it's like he's manipulating you. He's trying to manipulate you through this fucking pity party. So his fucking simp fan base will get to the point where they can just give him more money. It's so insanely fucking manipulative. He's constantly a victim. It's some of these fucking videos go back 10 years. It's 10 years of listening to this guy say, I'm losing everything. There's nothing here for me. Please donate money. Do what you can. Help me. Help me. This one video I'm probably showing a bunch of clips for was the reason I unsubscribed 4 years ago, I think.
The money on YouTube is not viable. It's not a sustainable business model. You have to innovate and grow and do other things that create other forms of revenue. That's why you have so many YouTubers who are preaching Twitch and preaching Patreon and merchandise, and they're trying their best to continue to do the one job, which is to make videos for you. I think one of the worst things to go along with this side of YouTube is we are living in a current state where you can make money punching people the f*** down.
All of this is circumstantial shit. He's a bad person, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a judge of his character that people have glossed over for years. But all the charity stuff is a big deal. He should be doing jail time for it. Honestly. Almost everybody agrees to this.
You never know what the problem with internet investigations is they can produce really good and compelling stories and really good and compelling evidence, and they can be 100% right. But the question of admissibility of that evidence, the question of the motivation of a federal prosecutor, the question of all of that, and the question of defensible options, even if those defensible options often are personally devastating but keep you out of prison type things.
Yeah.
Those all are balanced in a question of, do we charge or do we not charge this person? But if you're talking can $600,000 of charity fraud end up with prison time? Shitloads.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, federal wire fraud, you're talking, you're using means of interstate commerce, live streaming program like YouTube, to solicit donations under false pretenses. This federal wire fraud is one of the charges. You could have charity fraud in there as well. I think you're looking at potentials of 10 to 20 years. I think federal wire fraud, I think, has a 20-year maximum. Now, you don't expect a 20-year maximum on a first-time offense, but I mean, depending on how they charge it, this is 10 years. They could actually charge out wire fraud over a 10-year period in 10 separate charges, or maybe it's 5 charges. And if those hammer out, what happens is if you get convicted on all of these things, even though it's all at once, but it all happens like in a series, your felony points basically build up with each charge that happens chronologically. So by the time you get to the 5th and 6th charges and 7th charges, you end up all the way down the line of, I was a non-offender. Now you're a 5-time felon on your 6th charge, and you are getting near that maximum punishment. It can build up really fast.
That was a guy named Camelot and his friend, Rakeda Law, an actual lawyer. Now, he's scuffed some cases up before, but that doesn't really matter. He actually knows what the law is. And here's some more clips of that.
So he's got a problem. The lawsuit question is always interesting because everybody wants to do that. Oh, you accused me of fraud. I didn't commit a fraud, so it's going to be I'm going to sue you. Well, your public figure is a matter of public concern. Public charity dollars that you solicited from tens of thousands of people are a public concern, especially within the community that donated those things. So you're at least a limited purpose public figure under the current analysis of how this works out. Now the question is, did you commit a fraud as the term of art for a statutory violation of the federal fraud statute? Maybe not. Maybe not. But as Carl Jobst and Mudahar, are they talking about the federal fraud statute and you being convicted of a crime? Or are they talking about activity that generally looks like criminal activity involving the defrauding of people's money? Yes, and it really does. Like, there's no way, even just from what I have seen right here in this phone call, I am comfortable saying this motherfucker sure looks like he defrauded a bunch of people out of money. And it looks like he's commit the crime of fraud. I don't know if he has, but I say, based on what he said, yeah, he probably did. Now, will he get convicted? I don't know. Will he get charged? I don't know. It's never up to us. We can watch people commit crimes all day that'll never get charged. Just look at Chicago or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this stuff happens. But Carl Jobst and Mudahar are making reasonable determinations based on the information available. And he can try and give them information to correct it to the point where they make a retraction. But if you go to, I'm gonna sue you, bro, for saying that you commit fraud by you're admittedly finding out 9-10 years after you first start soliciting donations that you haven't donated any of it, that's not on your organization, that's on you. And it's on, and you're also on the board of the organization, so like it's also on you there. Like, there is no excuse for this. There is no way you're supposed to not know. You can try and say your intent wasn't to defraud, but at some point it's constructive, because somewhere it looks like he had to lie on some form.
See, the biggest problem was the investigation. The reason he might not do jail time is because Mudahar and Carl Jobst, in all their great investigative work, weren't trying to get him jail time. They were just trying to get the money donated. That's why they got into contact with him. That's why we got that infamous interview in the first place. So while you and me are now watching clips of guys' lawyers actively acknowledging that this was charity fraud, even they doubt that anything's going to happen. In some of these clips, they're even suggesting how he could have stole the money for himself. But let's be honest with ourselves. Almost all of them are even admitting to the fact that online journalists don't seem to get many convictions. EDP is still walking around looking for cupcakes, for fuck's sake. All the while Chris Chan helps her dementia-ridden mother knock the cobwebs out of her vagina with her dick. That's what happens. These people have been caught dead to rights multiple times, and nothing has happened. So why would I think the completionist would do jail time? And even if he does, we would find out maybe a year or two from now, at best. So if we can't stop an autistic mother molester from molesting his mother, what makes you think we can stop a charity fraudster like the completionist? Allegedly.
Even happened, I guess more people would have talked about the guy. If anything, it would have just led to a bigger problem with him getting fucking arrested. Like, look at Chris Chan. Chris Chan got out of fucking prison. He might have been in jail for what happened, but fucking dollars to donuts, the people that were in charge of fucking taking care of him were sick of getting pizzas every day, you know? And they were like, fuck it, just send him back out, what do we give a shit, this is not our problem, whatever. And like, yeah, I don't know, the police don't like to deal with a fucking YouTube digital media circus.
Even with him and his incompetent scumbag family doing everything they can to delete the evidence from their web pages and everything else.
Recently, Carl Jobst, the extremely respected figure in investigative journalism, even though he doesn't call himself a journalist, messaged me a peculiar series of changes to the Open Hand Foundation's website. This nonprofit, once known for their philanthropic endeavors, appears to be undergoing a significant digital makeover, potentially to hide even more secrets. They have deleted a whole slew of these, and now it's just home, our story, events, contact, And of course, donate is still there. And most importantly, they've updated the Our Story page, where initially in the internet Wayback Machine, it talked about how since 2003, we have led fundraising efforts to find a cure, blah, 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 blah. Our mission, we're working to help, blah, 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 blah. And then it had this quote from the guy that was fired from UCSF, where they never donated any money to, saying, "I am deeply grateful for your recent gift to," which they never updated the correct spelling of that, UCSF School of Medicine. Your support of frontotemporal dementia and related degenerative diseases research is invaluable. David Kessler, MD, Dean, School of Medicine, who got fired from the UCSF because of disputes over finances. This guy, who they pulled a quote from, lying about the finances,
he's still making YouTube videos, thinking people want to see the bullshit he's peddling. But don't worry. If everything I did works out the way I hope it does, you'll be seeing this in front of every one of his videos for the next 2 fucking weeks. You do not get away with ripping people off. You do not get away with stealing money from charities, allegedly. Now, after you've watched me rant about this man for how long now? I don't even know. Let me self-promote. This is mostly a review site for video games, old and new. If you like this content, you should check out my next video. It's going to be on Sea of Stars, with just talking more about his involvement with that game and the game itself. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell if you're desperate enough. Thank you. Enjoy your day.